Inhale, press play. Have a lot on my board, kind of went off, and I'm gonna erase some of it just to like feel more clear. But I wrote a couple things down from my, like a couple little moments of awareness. In my last video, I talked about just that voice that seems to interrupt our days. We're just trying to do something that we even thought would be fun, and we don't enjoy it because our minds won't stop about maybe a text that we received from someone that was triggering, and then suddenly our whole evening becomes about that text. Our whole drive there, our whole drive home. Sometimes that stuff even wakes you up in the middle of the night. You wake up in the middle of the night from something like a car horn or a sound, something natural. And then the chatter starts again about that one thing. And the misconception that I've come to, because it doesn't help, is thinking that the reason that you're feeling disturbed is because of that text. It's because of how that person behaved that just bothered you so much. What can really help not having so many of those, because my whole goal is to just have less and less of that chatter, to just like do me and allow other people to be how they are. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to try to control how other people see me. If that person's text is accusing you of being something that you're not, and that's what you're so fired up about, like, how could they think that I'm that, they're that, and then you make a list in your head about how they're that, and that's what's keeping you up, and you think of another one, you're like, oh my gosh, they also have done this. Yeah. So in trying to recognize that voice, because a lot of times, like, even though we know that it's there, like someone brings it up and it's like, that's so relatable, it's still kind of going on without us knowing that we're the one paying attention to it, and we don't have to. There's this feeling like we need to listen to it, and I still do it. I woke up that way today, and I asked myself, why do I feel like I need to listen to it? But as I'm watching this voice, like, it has gotten so much more mild. I used to have panic attacks. I used to be a very anxious person, and I'd fluctuate between anxiety and depression, and now I still have those moments, but they are farther apart and they're less intense when they do happen. And I'm also gaining the tools of how to deal with them while they are there. Sometimes you can be piled on so many tools, and it's like, I can't force myself to meditate when I'm anxious. You know, you tell someone and they're like, oh, do this, this, and this, and it's like, in those states, it really, like, doing anything is just like already too much. So in noticing what that voice is saying, you know, what it's bothered about or what it's pointing out, and how I kind of like subconsciously before on like autopilot, direct my attention to it. Now I'm noticing I direct my attention to it, and I'm like, okay, how do we not do this? But as I'm noticing it, it does feel lighter because I'm able to not be in it and try to solve it, this impossible equation. I'm like watching it tell me I need to figure that out, and I'm like, interesting. And as I do that, there are less and less thoughts, because I'll notice someone will be like, wow, that's, some just feels so irrelevant. All right, I'm like, wait a second, you know? And you poke little holes, and Yeah, like, have you ever just like journaled or written out about why you're upset about something? And if you are, you're like, why am I so upset about this? What's the worst case scenario? And then the worst case scenario is something, so you're like, I can handle that. And then you drop it, and the worst case scenario doesn't even happen. So as I've been doing this, I've been just noticing what that voice is saying, and I was watching a YouTube video, and as he was talking, I was like taking it in, and I thought, oh hey, there's no thoughts going on. It's like, yeah, I was like, as I'm watching the video, I'm like, oh no, wait, I'm not thinking. And then I'm like, oh. As if I need my mind to record for me what's happening. Because as I've been like, why do I look at this voice? Little answers come in. Like, yeah, why do I look at it when it says this? So when it said, oh no, I should be thinking right now, I'm watching this video. It's like, wait a second. Why does my mind think that? And it's because for some reason, my consciousness felt like if I don't, then I'm gonna forget. I need to record this. Don't forget, oh my gosh, send this to that person. And as I'm doing that, I'm not even listening to the video. So yeah, we will take that off our mind. And then there's this one. I noticed sometimes I talk fast. And when I start to talk fast, it can be from my mind as opposed from a place of noticing that it's going on. What I notice is without thoughts, I hear the birds. I'm in my body. I sense sickness. I'm able to detect where my immune system's at and avoid certain places. Like I nanny part-time, and the little girl had a fever, and part of the job is to take care of the little kids when they're sick because the parents have work. But I tuned into my body and I was like, you know what? I'm feeling about 70%. If I'm around someone that has a fever, there's a chance I'm going to take it on and then pass it on to the other people I work with during the week. So I didn't go. Usually though, like if I didn't have that stillness and ability to really tune into my body, I would have just gone. I would have gotten sick, and then I'd be like, oh no, I'm sick, and it would have been the rest of my week. So I sense sickness before it happens. I sense injury. I'm not going to go to another workout class if my ankle's a little off. I avoid little too big inconveniences because I'm listening. Yeah. When we're focusing on that voice that's annoyed at little things here and there, we're not listening to our higher self, our spirit, whatever you call it, when you get to a place where you can sort of just see what's going on. And I genuinely believe that a lot of like big crises happen and when they do, it jolts you kind of awake, like, whoa, my priorities were off. I didn't even know that this was approaching a blow up, and it blew up and you're shocked. But I genuinely believe that on this path of not paying attention to that little voice that's worried about all these little things, when there's things outside of you that are going on that you're going to either sense before they happen and you'll be more prepared, or you can avoid them completely because your eyes are open. You see you sense into how your car is functioning, and you take it to get fixed before it breaks, as opposed to you receive a text asking you to cover a shift, and you go off in your head about the audacity that they have of asking you to do that, and how unappreciated that makes you feel, because and now they're taking advantage of you because you always say yes, and like focusing on that instead of noticing your car and then being present enough to, when you do receive that text, you see it from a place of, you can tune into your body and be like, can I take that on today? Because if you can, then you will. And if you can't, then you say no. And the pro of that is saying no. People respond better to that than you might think. And the ones that don't, they will kind of fall out of your life. And ones that respond well to your no's will start to approach. And suddenly you'll be living in a place where you can just trust your flow to happen and don't have to worry about how you're affecting other people, because you find yourself surrounded by other people that are regulating themselves. You don't need to get ahead of anything. You just need to be. So, I'm gonna erase this. Also hearing the birds. I know that's corny, but it happens. So, something I've been asking myself lately is these boundaries. You know, you get that text that asks you to do something, and you're, you can say yes or no. Self-ownership. Here's what I will or won't allow in my space. And people will fall away when you start living like that, but also people will come closer to you. And I genuinely believe that's when you find soulmates, in the form of friends and lovers and teachers. It becomes about your energy, your time, and your peace. That's all that's yours to manage. And then there's the let them theory, which I also love. It's about how their behavior reveals who they are. When someone's doing something, instead of taking it personally offensive, it's not, what they're doing has nothing to do with you. It reveals who they are. Whether or not they think it has to do with you or not, that also doesn't matter. That's just their perception, like I talked about before. And in this situation, you can trust that you don't need to control anyone. Once you start to say no to certain things, you'll notice other people that are like saying yes when you since you've learned to detect in yourself where your energy's at, you'll be able to pick up on other people's energy and be like, why are you saying yes to that? You're gonna regret that. But you can't control anyone. That's the thing also about being on this path, is as you start to get to know yourself, you get to know other people. And you can only know others as deeply as you know yourself, and that's so true. And we feel it too when you start to get to know yourself really deeply, you sense how deeply the people around you know themselves. So I want a combination of these, because I want to allow someone's behavior to reveal how they are, be unattached, but I also don't want to allow someone to cross my boundaries. So I came to a middle thing. ChatGPT did help me come to how to combine these two. I'll let you do what you do, and I'll choose what I do in response. And then intentions come in. Because when you respond to someone that's being active, is activated, it's hard not to respond from a place of, I want you to see how what you're doing is wrong. But that intention, it completely corrodes the whole situation. Also, sometimes I use words that don't mean what they mean, but they make sense in my mind. So like corrodes, for example, I couldn't give you a definition, but it felt right there. Don't get me on the semantics. It won't stick. Yeah. Sometimes our intentions are hard to face. Those are the things we cringe at, when you realize like, oh, I was trying to make them feel badly. I was trying to make them jealous. I was trying to make them realize that they're wrong. But those intentions, they just mess it all up. It's really silence does so much. And then you start to learn yourself too. When you really go into where your intentions have been, it's like, oh my gosh, I've tried so hard to do those things. Like I've tried so hard to get people to understand me, and I've like phrased things or said things in a way that was the intended result. Something that helps pull me out when I catch myself being stuck in a train of thought, like a headline comes up on the news and you're like, the audacity of that person to think that or to do that or to say that to that person. Like there's genuine things to be bothered about. But when you catch yourself in that, it's not helpful. It's not helpful. And when you can notice that it's not helpful, what really helps pull me out of that disturbance is to notice it. Like notice what's happening. This is happening and it's disturbing me. You can ask yourself why. You can journal about it. I'm still figuring out what to do when I notice myself disturbed. And sometimes I am sitting there for an hour and a half in the disturbance, and I'm still trying to understand how to just let it be. Like last night, I went on this really fun little self date. I got all dressed up and brought a book and ordered some dessert at this really pretentious restaurant. And it was a vibe, but I was in and out of enjoying it because my mind would trail off and be bothered about something, and then it ended up being a whole meditative practice to bring me back. I kept bringing myself back, and it gets tiring to continue to bring myself back, which is why I'm coming to, okay, I think I'm ready to fully surrender my life to the present moment and to completely get rid of that voice, that little voice that thinks it's preparing you for something, thinks that it's coming to some conclusion, or thinks that it has the perfect thing to say to that person to get them to understand you. But the intentions of that voice they're never good. It's all ego. This is how I will feel better. This is how I will make them understand me. This is how I will control the situation. Bottom line, stay centered no matter what. That's my end goal. I want to be centered no matter what. I want the world to be able to be. The world can be in chaos around me and I can stay centered. I've found that when really extreme things happen to me, for me, whatever, around me, I do stay centered, really extreme ones. I was outside of Vegas, 2 hours on a drive there from Washington State, so it was a big, long trip, and stuck for 10 hours with my friend, waiting for a tow truck to not even come, to call us back, for all we knew, stuck out there. And I had this overwhelming sense of calm. This will play out, and reacting to it, to the fear that there was fear there. What if the tow truck guy comes and he's a murderer? I knew that going into that wasn't going to be helpful. But for some reason, when I'm on a self-date like last night, trying to enjoy a good book, the voice that's like telling me that how this person's in the wrong and how I'm in the right and how to get that across to them, like about that situation, was so important to, like, it was so distracting to my consciousness. Whereas like I'm stuck 2 hours outside of Vegas in the middle of the desert in the dark, and I had peace because I knew that giving into that fear or that sense of trying to control wasn't going to be helpful. But in small situations like this, for some reason, I still believe somewhere that it's helpful because I'm still looking at it. I'm working on redirecting my attention and stay centered no matter what. That's what I have. All right. What's a creative goodbye? I wish you moments of silence and self-understanding.